It is Tuesday, which of course means it's time for me to answer the questions that you guys send in each and every week on the BrendenPlayz forum at BrendenPlayz.com/forums or in the YouTube comment section down below. We're coming off a pretty good Raw, in my opinion. I personally enjoyed the show, and we are just 3 weeks away from WrestleMania. Things are starting to heat up a little bit, and all the matches for WrestleMania are starting to come together. We have a pretty good idea of what to expect at WrestleMania now. I don't think there's really much more to be added. Maybe a tag team match or something like that, or another filler match, and probably the pre-show as well. So there's not too much to do now with WrestleMania. We start to really know the bulk of what to expect, and so far so good. So I'm pretty pumped for it. And we're going to talk about Raw, we're going to talk about WrestleMania, we're going to talk about everything that happened this week in wrestling. So without further ado, let's get into our first question. It comes from Bailey14. Do you think Reigns and Lesnar has been poorly built? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Personally, I would have thought that this week, those two guys would have met face-to-face, would have had some kind of confrontation, maybe a brawl or something, just something for these two to get in the ring and be, in amongst it with each other. I mean, it's fair enough to have these guys talking about each other each and every week, and Paul Heyman coming out and cutting, some of the best promos we've ever seen from him. And tonight's promo was just incredible, amazing. One of his best. Last week I thought it was one of his best. This week, maybe even better. He just keeps getting better and better, Paul Heyman, and it's fair enough to him coming out every single week and doing that. I love it, but I would also like to see Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, look at each other eye to eye, have some kind of confrontation, brawl around a little bit, create, some kind of build between the two of them, rather than just one week it's Reigns, the next week it's Paul Heyman. Even Reigns, he's more focused on Seth Rollins right now than he is on Brock Lesnar. And I don't really get that, Why didn't Reigns come out when Paul Heyman was cutting a promo and interrupt and, start this thing with Brock Lesnar? I mean, Brock Lesnar's the guy that, he's got to try and beat, and Paul Heyman's saying, okay, Brock Lesnar's unbeatable. Well, how about Roman Reigns come out and show how good Roman Reigns is, and try and get one up on Lesnar or something. So that's really my own concern. These two haven't really met face to face yet. They've had the one interview confrontation, and let's be honest, that probably would not have happened if it wasn't for the circumstances. So they've really got to try and do something. And Brock Lesnar only has so many appearances left. I think he might only have 1 or 2 appearances left. I think maybe just the one before WrestleMania. So that's worrying in my opinion. I think tonight should have been the night where they pulled the trigger, had these two guys meet. Obviously probably on the last week of Raw before WrestleMania, these guys are probably going to have some kind of brawl and hype you up for it, but I wouldn't mind something a little bit more in advance. Get these two guys in amongst it, and give us a reason to see these guys in action, because right now it's just, are we seeing Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins? We're not really seeing Brock Lesnar do anything. We're just not really seeing anything. We're just seeing Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and the Authority every single week. We don't really care, because WrestleMania has nothing to do with Roman Reigns and the Authority. It has everything to do with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. So why aren't we seeing Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar have some kind of, confrontation? It doesn't have to be a match or anything like that, but just like these guys come out and just talk to each other face to face, man to man, rather than, have Paul Heyman talk about Roman Reigns behind his back when he's not out there. Why isn't Roman Reigns coming out and responding? So they should have probably started to do that this week. I've been able to let it slide for recent weeks, but they got to start doing something to kind of spark this feud up a little bit. The next question is from Apex Predator. Well, since Goldust and Stardust will not go one-on-one at Mania, is this the end of their feud? I have no idea what's going on. I really don't know. Have they dropped the ball? Have they scrapped the Goldust and Stardust rivalry? If they have, that's a bit of a shame, because I was actually starting to get into the feud. And if the blow-off is just going to be an IC title match, well then, what was the point of that? I mean, we had the Fastlane confrontation. They had a match. Goldust won. If that's it, then that's really, really poor. I know the crowd was not into it at all, but that's WWE's fault. They haven't really booked these guys good at all in recent months. So I really don't know. I was starting to dig the rivalry. If they've scrapped it already, that's a bit of a shame. I think at least a pre-match for this would be decent. I mean, the feud kind of warrants some kind of WrestleMania match. I mean, we've got the Divas tag team match, which is thrown together at the last second. We all know there's going to be a WWE tag team match that's just going to be thrown in the last second anyway. It's just a multi-man tag team match for whatever reason, like they like to do, just to get all the tag teams on the roster, you know, on WrestleMania. So I don't know what they're doing with Goldust and Stardust. I really don't want to see them in the ladder match, to be honest with you. I think I'd rather have Daniel Bryan as the 6th member, but you know, if they're going to make an 8, 9, 10-man ladder match, then sure, but you know, they don't really have a place in it right now. They're just kind of being forced into it. It just doesn't, you know, just doesn't really suit with what they've been going with in recent weeks. The next question is from Joe Levy. Out of 10, how would you rate the Pro Bowl WrestleMania card? Well, at the moment, you've got Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, which is pretty much going to happen. John Cena, Rusev, Lesnar, Reigns, Sting, Triple H, a multi-man ladder match, which personally I think might be the match of the night. A tag team match, which I don't know, I'm guessing maybe triple threat tag team match. I'm not exactly sure, but then you have the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, so that's kind of cool, and the Divas match. So at the moment, I mean, WrestleMania is looking pretty damn good to me. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty... Oh yeah, and Undertaker and Bray Wyatt as well. I keep forgetting about that. You know, that's a bit of a worry. But yeah, so I'm pretty keen for WrestleMania, to be honest. I think the card, for the most part, looks pretty damn good to me. I mean, I think the IC title match kind of just puts the icing on the cake to me, and I think that match kind of maybe even more pumped, because that's the match that I can really get into, and hopefully that opens WrestleMania and really starts WrestleMania off quite hot. So I think WrestleMania probably looks as though as an 8, 8.5 to me. Some of the build to some of the matches is very questionable, which makes it a little bit difficult to kind of give it that much higher rating. But for the most part, WrestleMania is looking pretty good. So I think an 8 out of 10 is what I would have to rate it. This one's from A Priceless 26. What is your opinion on the Bill Demott allegations? So obviously, that's probably the big talking point of wrestling this week. Bill Demott stood down from the lead trainer in NXT. So look, I kind of sympathize a little bit with the wrestlers that they have to go through this kind of training. But in my personal opinion, I think this type of training that Bill Demott does, you know, that this military style training, you know, tell them that you're a pussy and tell them that you're this and this and this, try and break them down mentally to try and make them tougher in the long run. Hell, most wrestlers from the 80s, the 90s, they all went through it and they all turned out fine, you know. It's just some guys cannot handle it and others can. And the guys that can handle it generally end up becoming probably bigger names in wrestling, because in wrestling, you have to go through a lot of shit to get to the top. And if you're not willing to go through that shit, you're not going to make it anywhere. So if you can't get called a few names, if you can't get beaten down during training, you're not really going to get that far in wrestling. It's simple as that. So I guess Bill Demott, in a way, is kind of allowing these guys to prepare for what they're going to face. Yes, the training's hard. Yes, everything else. I think the real allegation was it was getting called homosexual or something like that. I don't know the specifics, but something quite offensive. If that's the case, and Bill's probably taking it too far. But, you know, let's be real. Every football coach, every, you know, drill sergeant, everything like that, they've all done a lot worse than that. You know, this happens all the time, and this used to be the norm back in the day. So, probably Bill's training style is dated, you know, and not really suited to the current crop of new guys coming through, and certainly the PC era that we're in. You know, everything's got to be politically correct. Everything's got to be, you know, you can't be. Everyone's sensitive these days. You can't say anything without anyone getting offended. And you know, if that's the case, they're gonna go to Twitter and complain about it. Realistically, this guy probably couldn't cut it. This guy probably was not good enough to be a wrestler. And he's just looking for someone to blame but himself. This guy probably sucks. I don't know, I've never seen him before, but this guy probably thought, okay, I couldn't cut it, but hey, it wasn't my fault. It's because Bill was treating me mean. He was being harsh on me. But realistically, the guy probably couldn't cut it. He was annoyed that he got dropped from the WWE, and he's probably just looking for someone to blame and looking for some money to get, you know, trying to file a lawsuit or something just to get a bit of buzz for himself. and, you know, get a bit of revenge on someone who probably treated him a bit harsh during training. So, personally, I don't really have that much of an issue with it, but that's just me. I'm maybe brought up in a different style to you guys, but that's just my personal opinion. I don't know the specifics, but I'm pretty sure that Bill's probably said a lot of the things that's been, you know, accused of, but, you know, I don't think he really meant any kind of malice behind it. I think it's just his training style, and he's just trying to mentally break you down to, you know, I don't know. I think that's just the way he is, and you know, this training style is used all the time. So I don't think it's, you know, anything groundbreaking or new. And you know, if every other wrestler's gone through the kind of the same thing, then whatever. But look, you know, they've got a new trainer now, and you know, Tensai's doing the thing. You know, he's the lead trainer for now, which is cool. But like I said, Bill Demott's training style is probably dated now, and probably for a good thing. And, you know, a lot of people don't like him, so if they're not really liking him, that's a bit of an issue. But, yeah, so it's not good that he was, you know, using all these abusive terms, and he was, you know, probably really insulting a lot of people there. That's not good at all. But, you know, his hard-ass training style, I certainly don't have a problem with. But, yeah, so him stepping down is probably for the best anyways. So, you know, he had a decent run as a trainer, and I think they should probably, you know, rotate it around all the time anyways. I would be rotating it every 2 or 3 years anyways, because you never know. Someone, you know, you can always have some different styles, different approaches to training, and it might work in the long run. And you might, you know, the same kind of style all the time may not, you know, necessarily be a good one, and someone else is coming in having a fresh perspective on NXT and how to train. That's always, you know, something good to do in my opinion. So, I think probably Bill might be back in the WWE. You know, he's already had a couple of stints in the WWE before, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do bring him back in like a year or two when the things start to cool down a bit. Next one's from Jetus Gaming. Do you think Seth Rollins will face Randy Orton at WrestleMania? It's an absolute given that's happening. Randy beat the living crap out of him on Raw, and I loved it. The RKO through the table was awesome. You know, the steel chair shots, you know, you can take him outside the ring, just beating the hell out of him. That was cool. And, you know, personally, I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And now that I've seen it, I'm glad I had to wait, because the payoff was much more rewarding. And, you know, the opening promo where they were making jokes and, you know, just making a joke out of the Authority, that was great. I loved it. Randy was, you know, cutting. That was just a funny segment. And Seth Rollins making fun of the Big Show, too. That was funny. You know, I enjoyed that segment, and, you know, I was really glad that they did wait in the end, because if they had just had Randy come out and beat the hell out of the Authority straight up, you know, that would have been predictable. But, look, you know, they made us wait 2 or 3 weeks and let Randy kind of get trusted by the Authority again and feel as though he was belong, and then he just beats the hell out of them. So next week should be good. You know, the whole Authority will be back there, so probably see Randy Orton and Roman Reigns team up to take on Seth Rollins and Kane and the Big Show or something next week on Raw. That's probably going to be the main event. But yeah, so I'm pretty happy, and I'm looking forward to the match at WrestleMania. Next one from Bailey14. What did you think about Sting talking for the first time? Do you think it was the right move? Well, look, it wasn't even Sting, man. It was a voice changer thing. I was pretty annoyed about that. I mean, you're going to have him talk, at least have Sting talk. Like, what's wrong with Sting's promo ability? What's wrong with Sting talking? Have Sting come out and have him come out in the ring and cut a promo. Tell us why he's attacking Triple H. What, he waited 14 years to get his hands on Triple H for taking down WCW? Like, couldn't they come up with something a little bit better than that? I mean, you know, they started doing something pretty good. Like, he saw how WCW was going down. You know, they could have played off that. Like, I see the same thing in Sting and the Authority. I saw with Triple H and the Authority. I see, you know, the WWE going down now that the Authority's in power and Triple H is in power. I see the WWE going down by the hands of Triple H, and I want to try and put a stop to that, because I've seen it happen before in WCW. If they had went with that, I personally think that would have been much better storyline in my opinion, rather than, yeah, WCW went out of business 14 years ago, and I'm just still so pissed off about it that it's taken me 14 years to come here and do something about it. That's just ridiculous. It's just, you know, if you had said, look, okay, I've seen it happen before, I want to try and put a stop to it, that, in my opinion, would have made more sense to me. I don't know. What do you guys think? What kind of storyline would you have done with Sting instead? But I'm just not kind of feeling the storyline. I'm looking forward to the match, but, you know, just the storyline and how they didn't have him actually talk. It was a voice change. Like, that was a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. Next one's from Tasteful Chain 4. What are your thoughts on Bo Dallas not returning yet? I don't really care. I mean, look, Bo Dallas, if he returned, what's he going to do? He's going to be in the Battle Royal. Does that really mean anything? No, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, there's nothing for him to do now. So if you're going to return him and you want to actually make something of him, return him after WrestleMania. He'll have more of a chance to do something and get over. Because right now, WrestleMania is booked. Like I said, the only thing that he could do is be in the Battle Royal. And hell, Sheamus is probably going to be in the Battle Royal. And they've been hyping up his return for months now. So, yeah, it just there's nothing for him to do. So, I suppose if you Bo Dallas, you probably wouldn't mind. You know, you might get on WrestleMania and be in the surprise entrant in the Battle Royal. Like, how fascinating would that be? That's probably the best that Bo Dallas is going to do. They ruined his little run he was doing. He was getting over. They had him lose to R-Truth for no reason whatsoever. So Bo Dallas, realistically, he's all but done. You know, this gimmick that he had, he was doing well, and now they just ruined it just like that. It's frustrating, but it happens all the time. So Bo, I don't know if he's really going to have another potential chance of getting over anytime soon. I think they're just going to bring him back and have him lose every single week anyways. The last question in today's episode comes from Bad News Bullet. If you were to run the WWE for 1 year, how would you book Raw and SmackDown for that year? In terms of Divas matches, signing talent, tag team matches, championship matches, and which titles would you bring back, pay-per-view matches, and of course booking Cena. Alright, we'll quickly run through this one. So Divas matches obviously give them a little bit more time, give them more serious storylines. And, you know, you got 3 hours on Raw every week. I'm sure we can dedicate 10 minutes. I mean, they dedicated 8 minutes or 3 songs to Wiz Khalifa this week, and they gave 5 minutes to the Divas. So that's right there as their priorities are wrong. Signing talent, definitely bring in Samoa Joe right now. Probably really about it. I'd try and get Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle back if I could, and get them in and, you know, have one last run. And also, I would get the Dudley Boys in as well and give them another run as a veteran tag team to help out the really struggling tag team division right now. So, in tag team matches, look, the tag team matches as well, they just need more storylines behind it. They need more emphasis, and you need to make tag teams and stick with them and try and get more actual tag teams rather than just sticking random guys with each other. Championship matches, and what titles would I bring back? Look, they just need to make the US and IC titles more relevant and more meaningful, and that's really all. I mean, if you brought back the Cruiserweight title, okay, but most of the guys on the roster are Cruiserweights anyways, so it doesn't really need to happen. Hardcore title, nah, they don't really do hardcore anymore, so I'd just keep the titles as is. Pay-per-view matches, you know, that's fine. I would definitely change Raw back to 2 hours, that's for goddamn sure. And Cena, I would keep Cena doing kind of what he's doing right now, working with some younger talent, and not putting them over all the time, because you still want to have a Cena win mean a lot, but definitely lose more feuds than win, and definitely keep him away from the titles for as long as he can. Come in and work with the champion, but don't have him win. You know, have the champion either win by DQ or whatever, or beat Cena clean. And I would definitely set up a Cena vs. Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania. I think that as a WrestleMania match could be really big for Roman Reigns. And I've said it before, I thought that Cena and Reigns could definitely be like similar to a Rock and Austin thing. Obviously, you're going to bite my head off for saying that, but like in terms of these guys could have a series of pay-per-view matches at WrestleMania, and you know, main event WrestleMania a couple times with each other and be a big rivalry. So that's what I kind of thought with that. But yeah, so that's really about. I could go into more detail later on, but we're running out of time. So guys, thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of Let's Talk Tuesdays. If you, of course, did enjoy today's episode, please do leave a like on the video and make sure you subscribe so you can see your questions answered next week. And of course, if you want to see your questions answered, you have to leave them, and you can do that by leaving a comment in the comment section down below, or you can leave your questions at the official thread at BrendenPlayz.com/forums. You can find the link to the official thread in the comment section, in the description down below. So make sure you do check that out. And of course, guys, I will see you all next Tuesday.